Okay, so we're back at our diag here. I'm going to link in from the announcement section right out of the course. That, of course, is over, we'll try Mitchell Pro Demand, see how that's working today. And when we bounce in there, you're going to give the login information that your instructor provided to you for the course. That'll take us over to the home page. So we're going to scroll, we're going to find our 2005. This one's Toyota Prius. It's Toyota. Into the Prius link. And that's going to give us all the vehicle info. The fuel, engine, the 1NZ FXE. This, of course, hatchback. And then we have the drive type, front wheel drive. No transfer case, not four wheel or all wheel. And then we have the automatic CVT transmission that everybody knows and loves. And that gives us the manufacturer code if we need that info. So here we're going to search that DTC, in this case a P0446. And we'll check it out. It looks like it popped up there. And we get our related information over here in Mitchell. So the most common cause, 103 of them reported here in the system, is the gas cap. So once I click on that selection, it'll tell us the top repairs. That'll give us the actual numbers, causes and fixes. OEM specifications, we can get our part number out of there. OEM test procedures. In this case, it's going to have us run a vacuum test, being that this is a vacuum type system. And if it fails, it would then send you to a smoke test to verify if there's a leak, or our last step would be, in most cases, a component. In this case, the actual switching valve. Let's take a look here, top repairs. Looks like the gas cap's a higher number, but 50 folks did do a replacement of the evap canister ultimately. So we'll see which way that goes. Top repairs, yeah, that's the one I just went into. Let's go back over there, causes and fixes. And the evap canister is a pretty high number. Evap canister vent solenoid, also pretty high. And then we have the gas cap and the solenoid valve itself. And a couple other issues here that are less common. So most common would be the evap's canister. We would perform a smoke test in most cases, look for any kind of a leak in that. The evap canister vent solenoid. And then we had the gas cap. And on this car, I do suspect there could be a problem with the gas cap. And that, of course, is much cheaper than either of the other two selections. So I think that's where we're going to start with this one. And see if that is ultimately the root cause of this problem. So OEM test procedures, let's take a peek at that real quick. Looks like I clicked out on that one. There we go. That's what I did. Wrong scroll down. So it gives us the circuits here. You can do that full screen. Oh, almost half a screen at least. And under the engine compartment, we have that service port. Fuel tank cap, that's what we're going to be inspecting close related to this one. Let's see, the purge flow switching valve. And then we have the sub fuel tank and the bladder assembly in there. So the purge valve switching valve is located in that region. We have to get up in the car. Looks like it's right on the outside of the actual canister. So the other two high failure rates are going to be that canister itself, the purge flow switching valve, And that is being fed by the vacuum switching valve. So I do want to check that if there's a possibility the evap vacuum switching valve connection up by the air cleaners come loose. That's going to be the feed to that purge flow switching valve. So this could be the issue. Could be a loose connection here. Could be a purge flow valve itself. And of course there could be a leak in the connection or an actually failed charcoal canister. So I want to check that vacuum feed into the system. If that's disconnected, that would definitely be the cheapest of all fixes. We might have a broken hose. It could be anything, you know, rodent damage. A lot of different reasons we'd get a leak. And I unfortunately don't have a smoke machine, but I'm going to do a good visual on that connection point. And then we'll look at the fuel tank cap and see how that looks. And we'll pick it up from there. Alright, so before we jump over to the car, I wanted to take a look at the guided component testing section. I'm a little new at Mitchell, so it's a bit of a learning curve for me too. But in this section I found some tech notes. It does mention our code, the P0446, and it tells us if we have multiple codes, which we do not here, to troubleshoot the 440 or the 442 prior. A common cause for no illumination in the system is a loose, missing, or an improper fuel filter cap, or hoses disconnected at the air filter housing. So I just wanted to show you that before we go on to the car, and we'll take a look at those two most common areas of the vacuum line up to the air filter housing, and we'll take a real close look at the fuel filler cap itself. Alright, so we're back at the car. We're going to check this switching valve. This is the first one that we saw in the diagram. It feeds the front of the system. It's also what feeds or attaches your test port for a smoke test. Unfortunately, I don't have a smoke machine handy, but you do want to check and make sure that the seal in that cap's in good condition, because if we have any evaporative leak, any type of vacuum leak, it could cause this particular code. Our connections are good. We've got some rust on the clamps, but everything seems good. That goes down to our vacuum switching valve here. So I'm going to pull this assembly, the air cleaner housing, so that you can get a little better look at things. But the first thing I noticed when I opened up that housing, the air filter is in decent condition. Of course, you always want to check the bottoms of these filters. There is a little bit of restriction in there, but it doesn't look like there's anything here that's enough to be a cause of a problem. Another few thousand, we're probably going to be swapping that out. I'll give it a light tap, get some of those debris items out of there. But down inside, we actually have some signs of some wildlife had gotten in there. So I'm going to clean that up, and then we'll remove this housing so we can get a better view down inside at that vacuum switching valve. Alright, so we got the air cleaner assembly out of the way, and as best I can I'm trying to get you a shot. Here's the connection point of the hose, the clamp. This is of course where it feeds at that manifold vacuum. Clamp's in good shape, hose appears good, and that goes over to our front vacuum switching valve. At first that one looked really good too, but what I found under closer inspection, I disconnected this clamp here. It's a common failure point, and when I pulled it off, sure enough, you can see quite clearly that the hose is split over time, and that split actually extends down into the clamping area. So we found our vacuum leak on a visual here. Luckily, I'll be able to trim that hose, remake that connection. We got that cleaned up. The other thing I wanted to mention while I was here, these cars are electronic throttle body. So So I took a good look at this throttle body. It just appeared to need a cleaning, but one thing you want to be sure and to never do with these is to manually move that throttle plate. If you were to do that, that would reset the idle point on the car, and in most cases you need a factory scan to reset. So I'm going to cover that up for now, make sure nothing goes down in it. We'll make the repair to the hose, and we'll get it back together, and then we'll move on to inspecting the gas cap just to be sure there's no problem down there. Alright, so we made the repair to the hose connection. I took that piece off. It shortened up the hose a little bit, but here on the Toyota I got plenty of room left, no problems there. And we re-clamped it, so that should solve the problem with this vacuum leak here. Hopefully that's all there was to this code, but I do want to look a little bit further just to be sure. So I'll get this assembly back together, take it for a road test real quick, and then we'll move on to the gas cap.